Khao Sok National Park sits right at the heart of southern Thailand. It consists of a mix of dense jungle, an enormous freshwater lake, and jagged limestone rock formations. It is one of the most beautiful places in the whole of Southeast Asia, and so far, it's my personal favourite location in Thailand. The national park sits ever so slightly off the main tourist trail and requires a little bit of effort to get there, which might be why so many visitors to Thailand choose to give it a miss. In this video, I want to show you why it should not be skipped. I also want to share my tips about how to get there, where to stay, and some things to look out for when visiting. Now, I was motivated to make this video because I've seen a lot of misinformation on YouTube about Khao Sok, which makes it seem like an exclusive resort that is out of reach to most tourists. In addition to that, most information online about Khao Sok is focused on the floating lake houses, skipping over the jungle section of the national park. In my opinion, this is a huge missed opportunity because Khao Sok jungle is the natural habitat of elephants, monkeys, lizards, and a whole bunch of other native Thai wildlife. And in my opinion, it's just as interesting as the more famous lake section. And in this video, I'll attempt to convince you to make it part of your trip to Khao Sok. First, let's talk about how to get there. If you're coming from Bangkok or the northern provinces, the closest airport to Khao Sok is Surat Thani, which is about an hour and a half drive away from the park. You can get a taxi, which will cost around 1,500 baht, or you can take the public bus for around 250 baht. Alternatively, it might be more convenient to visit Khao Sok after visiting Phuket or Krabi to the south, in which case it's about a 3-hour drive by taxi for around 3,000 baht, with a much cheaper public buses available too. So my biggest tip when visiting the park is that you should make sure to stay in the different parts. Most people when they visit only stay on the lake, which does admittedly have some of the best scenery in the park, but just to the south is the ancient rainforest, which gives you the chance to travel deep into the heart of the Thai jungle, and it's probably the best place in the whole of Thailand to catch a glimpse of some of the native wildlife. And I recommend heading to the jungle first because this is likely to be the more challenging part of the trip, so afterwards you can take it nice and easy on the lake. When I stayed, I did a trek in the jungle to Tongkhoi waterfall. I actually already have a more detailed video about how to survive this trek, which I'll link to the video. But to sum up, this was a full day trek with a guide which took us to a waterfall right in the heart of the park. During this trek we saw wild macaques, who seemed pretty curious to meet us, wild boar, beautiful dragonflies, spiders, and flying lizards. This was actually the longest and most challenging trek available and has to be done with a guide because the forest is so dense it would be easy to get lost. But there are plenty of shorter and more accessible routes to take if you're not used to hiking or you just want to take it easy. If you're there between November and April, you might have the chance to see the rafflesia flower. This is the biggest flower in the world and can only be seen in a select few places around the world, with Khao Sok being one of them. I have heard that this hike can be quite challenging though, so be careful. Finally, to have the best chance to see the most wildlife, I recommend either doing a night safari or staying in one of the locations that's just outside the park. I stayed in a place called Our Jungle House, which was surrounded by nature. When we woke up, there were plenty of monkeys playing across the river beside our room. But be careful though, on the way back to our room at night, we bumped into this 3-meter long reticulated python.
Leave and let it just
let it be.
Yeah.
After spending a night or two in the jungle, it's time to head to the lake. Now, you obviously need to book your accommodation beforehand. You can't just show up to the guest houses on the lake, otherwise it might be a long swim back. Now, one thing I see a lot of other YouTubers get wrong in their videos is the price of the floating guest houses. There are a lot of places on the lake that cost around $300 a night. However, there are some cheaper options available. My personal recommendation is Smiley's Lake House, linked below. This costs about 2,500 baht per night, but includes transport, 4 meals, there's no other restaurants to swim to so you can't eat anywhere else, and a number of different boat trips around the lake. The accommodation itself is completely fine, and to be honest, I don't really understand why anyone would come to a place as stunning as this and feel the need to splash out in a fancy hotel room, when the views are the same for everyone else, no matter where you stay. So your hotel will be able to arrange transport to the pier for you, at which point you'll meet a representative from your lake house accommodation, and they'll take you to one of the traditional Thai long-tail boats. And before heading to your accommodation, you'll do the first tour of the lake. Cheow Lan Lake is actually a man-made lake, made at the construction of the Ratchaprapa Dam, built in 1987, which was built to give electricity to the whole of southern Thailand. The lake is about 70 square miles, and to build it, they had to evacuate the whole area, moving whole villages in the process. The boat trip will take you to see a number of different rock formations around the lake, the highlight of which is the Three Sisters, where the boat will most likely stop for people to take photos. Once you land at your accommodation, there will most likely be food ready to eat, and you'll then be given the afternoon to spend time relaxing by the lake. Most accommodations will have kayaks and snorkels to rent too. I strongly recommend taking advantage of the extra boat trips that your hotels will offer. With Smileys, we did one in the evening to watch the sunset on a deserted island. The whole time on the boat trips, you get to spend time with experienced guides from the area who'll be able to tell you a lot about the local wildlife and have plenty of interesting stories about the lake. In the evenings, there's not much to do but drink a beer whilst watching the sunset. And I highly recommend waking up early to see one of the most beautiful sunrises you'll ever see. In the morning, we also took another trip to go see some of the great hornbill birds and wild gibbons. Unfortunately though, we were only able to catch a glimpse of them from a distance. It was here that you could see some of the signs of the forest area that the lake used to be, with the dead trees protruding out the lake. Visiting Khao Sok National Park will be a life-changing experience for many. After visiting, I'd recommend heading south to Phuket. Check out my video comparing the two most popular beaches on the island, Kata Beach and Patong Beach. Alternatively, you can check out my more detailed video about how to survive a trek in Khao Sok National Park.